Hello everyone. In my today's session, I am going to deal with the binding energy of impurity. In our previous session, we have studied how an extrinsic semiconductor is formed, and based on the type of dopant, different types of extrinsic semiconductors, which are nothing but N-type and P-type, we have already studied. So extrinsic semiconductor, we know it is formed by doping an intrinsic semiconductor. So here we are considering an intrinsic semiconductor, that is silicon, and introducing a pentavalent impurity. For example, phosphorus. It may be arsenic or anything. We are doping with the pentavalent impurity, and that atom is having 5 valence electron, as it is a pentavalent in nature. Out of the 5 valence electron, 4 are involved in the bond formation, which is covalent in nature with the neighboring silicon atoms, but out of the 5 valence electron, 1 electron is not involved in bonding. So we say that it is acting as a free electron. Now we need to know whether there is a binding between that free electron and the ion of the impurity. That is, free electron is there means the phosphorus is a positive ion or positive core, we can say. So whether there is binding or no, let us study. Here we can consider the donor impurity as a hydrogen-like center, because in hydrogen atom, if you consider, there is a positive core, which is nothing but the nucleus, and an electron is revolving around the nucleus. Here again, if you just remove all those silicon atoms, we can just see a positive core and a free electron. So it can be compared and studied. So here Coulomb attraction between the core and the valence electron is screened by the neighboring silicon atoms. Here we are not considering an isolated phosphorus atom. It is within the crystal lattice of intrinsic semiconductor. That's why there is a Coulomb attraction between the positive core as well as the valence electron, but the difference is that it is screened by the neighboring silicon electrons or the ions. So what happens because of this screening, the Coulomb attraction or interaction is weakened. So there exists a binding energy between positive core as well as the free electron, but the question arises is whether the binding energy is large or small in nature. So if it is large, let us say binding energy is large, it means that the electron is bounded to the positive core, means it is not acting as a free electron, thus it is not going to contribute for the conductivity. But if it is small, what is going to happen? That is, binding energy is negligible, it means it is acting as a conduction electron. Why? Binding energy is less. It means it is loosely bounded with the positive core, which means that it is free to move within the lattice, and free electrons are responsible for conductivity, and that's why these free electrons are called as conduction electrons. And based on the binding energy of the impurity itself, we are going to determine the donor as well as acceptor levels at certain temperatures in N-type and P-type semiconductors respectively. So we can understand that the binding energy of impurity concept is very significant while studying extrinsic semiconductors. So let us derive the equation of binding energy of impurity. Here we have considered donor impurity, and as we have already discussed, the impurity added can be treated as a hydrogen-like atom. That is, phosphorus atom with one free electron, so that there is a center core or ion which is positively charged, and the free electron is obviously it is negatively charged. And such hydrogen-like atom or the system is explained using Bohr's theory. That's why here also we can apply Bohr theory. And again I have explained, whenever there is two different or opposite charged particles, there exists a force which is Coulomb force, that is a kind of attractive force between the two oppositely charged particles. That's why we can define the Coulomb force, which is equals to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught E square by R square. Every term is having their usual meaning. And 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught can be written as K. Let us call it equation number 1. Then using Bohr theory, we know that the angular momentum is integral multiple of h cross. That's why we can write equation 2 as mvr is equals to n into h cross. Then defining the centripetal force, which is equals to mv square by r, let us consider it as equation number 3. In order to get the equation, or in order to check the satisfaction of the Bohr theory with respect to the donor impurity, we need to consider some conditions, and whether they are satisfying or no, the results are to be cross verified. So let's square equation number 2, which is going to give m square v square r square is equals to n square into h cross square. In order to reduce it in terms of centripetal force so that equations become easier to solve, we are going to multiply and divide it by r, and we are going to separate the terms in terms of centripetal force. So it is mv square by r into mr cube, that is multiply and dividing by r, will be equal to n square h cross square. Then keeping the centripetal force term on the LHS part and moving other terms on the RHS, which will be equal to n square h cross square divided by mr cube. And we know these are the two types of forces which we have explained or defined. One is centripetal and another one is Coulomb force. So these two can be equated to each other, and this will be equal to ke square by r square, that is from equation number 1. So when you solve this equation, that is second part and second term and third term, we are going to get the r value, that is Rn is equals to n square h cross square divided by kme square. And this is the equation which gives the extent of binding between the positively charged core and nth electron, as we can visualize in the picture also. Then if you put the value of n as 1, it is going to be equal to 0.53 angstrom, and we know this is nothing but the Bohr radius. So here we can check the applicability of hydrogen atom or Bohr theory in our donor impurity system also. Then let us check for the energy. Total energy is nothing but the sum of potential energy as well as kinetic energy, and En, which is considered to be the total energy, is equal to T plus V, where T is the kinetic energy given as Ke square by 2 Rn, and V is the potential energy, which is equals to minus Ke square by Rn. So these are usual equations, and when you solve it, we are going to get minus Ke square by 2 Rn, which is the total energy. And when you put the standard values of Ke and Rn, which we have already calculated in previous slide, we get an answer equal to minus 13.58 electron volt. This is nothing but similar to minus 13.6 electron volt, which is nothing but the ionization energy of hydrogen atom. So again we can see that both are analogous to each other, and that's why total energy can be written by using the equation of radius. So En will be equal to minus k square m e raised to 4 divided by 2n square h cross square, where just we have substituted the value of Rn from previous equation. If you bring 1 by n square outside the bracket, we are left with m naught e raised to 4 divided by 2 into 4 pi epsilon naught whole square into h cross square. Just we have substituted the value of k is equals to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. So the bracketed term with the minus sign, it is going to indicate EH, that is nothing but the ionization energy of hydrogen atom. So all the equations are in good agreement using the Bohr theory, and that's why we can define the ionization energy of donor atoms by using the above equation, and ED can be written as Me into e raised to 4 divided by 2 times of 4 pi epsilon m whole square into h cross square. Here we have just written Me instead of m naught, that is effective mass, instead of rest mass of electron, and in place of epsilon naught we have written epsilon m, where epsilon m is nothing but epsilon naught into epsilon s, and epsilon m is the permittivity of the medium of the crystal, whereas epsilon s is relative permittivity of the medium of the crystal. So it is similar to epsilon is equals to epsilon naught into epsilon r. We have to note that if you just put it in the above equation, we get the binding energy of the donor atom as 1 by epsilon s square into Me by m naught into Eh. Here the effective mass, that is Me, has been used rather than the free, that is rest mass of the electron, that is m naught. This m naught we have just multiplied and divided in our previous equation, so that we can express Ed in terms of Eh for comparison purpose. But the main factor is the effective mass itself. So this equation gives the details about binding energy of donor impurity. Next, let us compare and calculate some details about the binding energy of impurity as well as the radius, that is extent of binding energy with respect to the hydrogen atom. So let us put some standard values of epsilon s approximately equal to 10 and effective mass of electron taken as nearly equal to 0.2 times of m naught. So if you just use the equation, that is Ed, binding energy of donor impurity, is equals to 1 by epsilon s square into Me by m naught into Eh, where Eh is the ionization energy of hydrogen atom. Putting the above values, 1 by 10 square is 100 and Me by m naught, it is nothing but 0.2. 0.2 can be written as 1 by 5 also. So here we can see Ed is equals to 1 by 500th of the ionization energy of hydrogen, and we already know what is the value of Eh. So if you substitute, we get the donor impurity binding energy approximately equal to 0.01 electron volt, and this is matching with the observed values also. So the donor level, we know it is lying just below the conduction band. We have already discussed this. If you consider the energy gap, the donor level is just below the conduction band and the acceptor level is just above the valence band in case of p-type semiconductor. And as these two levels, that is donor level and conduction band, both are near to each other, almost all the donors which are present on the donor level, they are going to ionize at the room temperature. because their electrons will be excited into the conduction band, as you can see. Here the donor impurity binding energy is just 0.01 electron volt. If you increase the temperature, or even if you say at the room temperature, thermal energy is nothing but Kb into T, that is Boltzmann constant, into, if you put room temperature also, the energy is going to be equal to of the order 0.025 electron volt at room temperature. So at room temperature, all the donors which are present in the donor level are excited into the conduction band. Means all these donor electrons are acting as conduction electrons, which are going to contribute for the increase in conductivity. So this is about with respect to the energy. Then let us see some details about the radius. So the Bohr radius of donor electron, here we can directly use the result of Bohr theory, that is from Bohr radius. And we see that Rd is equals to epsilon s into m naught by me into a naught. This is the direct result from the Bohr theory, because all other conditions are satisfied, and we have used the Bohr theory for applicability in case of donor impurity. So the direct equation can be seen, and if you put the same values which we have considered, that is epsilon s as 10 and me is equals to 0.2 times of m naught, we get Rd is equals to 50 times that of a naught. That is, Rd is greater than a naught. Bohr radius is of donor electron is going to be greater when compared to that of a hydrogen atom. And when you put the value of a naught, it is going to come approximately equal to 30 angstroms. So the radius of the orbit is larger than a naught by a factor of 50. So again, this is much greater than the interatomic spacing. So the orbit of the electron encloses a great many host atoms. That is, screening we can observe by the different atoms of the intrinsic semiconductor. And that's why the lattice is going to act as a polarizable dielectric, which is continuous in nature. So this is about the some of the conclusions which we draw out from the binding energy of impurity, that is donor impurity, and the same will be applicable in case of p-type semiconductor also. So this is for today's session. Thank you.